He's
Crazy.
doing good. Yeah, we're both retired now.
Yeah.
And it's hard with him. He just doesn't know how to be retired. He doesn't know how to be a transition.
Yeah.
But he's getting he's getting he's getting
Work hard.
he's a hard worker. He still does, and I still does.
Good morning. Welcome to this candidate forum. This candidate forum is hosted by the Johnstown Breeze. It is the candidate forum for candidates running for positions on the Milliken Town Board. We have with us today 3 mayoral candidates and 4 board candidates. The 4th mayoral candidate, Tricia Stafford, was not able to be with us today. She had a family emergency. So we'd like to thank each of you for joining us, for running, and for taking the time to come and answer questions today. I'm Leslie Banker. I'm the publisher of the Johnstown Breeze. I'd like to thank all of you for being here today. And to my left, we have Matt Lubitsch, who is the editor of the Johnstown Breeze, Leo Rivera, who many of you may know from the Roosevelt High winning champion football team. Leo was also an intern with the Johnstown Breeze and is currently with the journalism program at CU. So we appreciate them for being here. Jen and Sarah are in the back. You guys wave your hands if everybody can see them. Jen and Sarah are taking questions. So the way this format works is we take written questions from the audience. We do not take questions from people standing up and asking questions. We ask that you follow the format. So if you have questions, if you haven't gotten pieces of paper, raise your hand. Jen and Sarah have pens and pieces of paper.
You tell me what you want me to write down.
As you ask questions, as you write your
Okay.
questions down, raise your questions up in the air, and Jen and Sarah will get your questions from you. Those questions are gonna go to Matt and Leo. So we have a short amount of time to ask a lot of questions. One of the things that we do is we compile questions. So there may be 5 questions about Broad Street that are of a similar nature. We would compile those into one question. So you may not hear your question per se. Know that we're trying to get to every question that we can, so we may, in some cases, aggregate several questions together. I believe that is pretty much it. The way this format goes is that we will start with 2 questions from Matt and Leo to each of the candidates. Each candidate will have a prescribed amount of time to answer those questions. Following those questions, we will begin to ask the questions that you all have generated from the audience. Again, there's a prescribed time to answer those questions. And the candidates, you're gonna see the back of my head the rest of the day because I'm up front doing what they don't do at the national debates. I'm managing time. So I promise you, as you know, we already started on time, we will end on time. We won't vamp. If we run out of questions, we'll end early. So thank you all for being here. If you would please join me for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you very much, and thank you everybody for attending today. As Leslie said, one of our candidates, Tricia Stafford, was not able to make it today. She had a death in the family and had to go out of town. I know she's in everybody's thoughts and prayers, and you can read her profile in this week's Breeze. Real quickly, I'll just point out before the end here that we have copies of Breeze from this week, which has candidate profiles of all the candidates in Johnstown and Milliken. You're welcome to take one with you when you leave. We will start with introductory remarks from our candidates. The candidates have drawn lots for speaking order, and then we will kind of rotate that through. Always kind of my one bane of existence is trying to keep track of who's next, but we'll do that, and the candidates will each have 3 minutes for introductory remarks, and we will start with Brandon Hayes.
Good morning. Thank you all for joining us today. My name is Brandon Hayes. I am a Board of Trustees candidate. But a little bit about me. I moved to Milliken about 4 years ago, actually next month. Spent the previous time in the Evans Greeley area. I was born and raised in Southern Colorado, went to the University of Wyoming where I met my wife. We have 2 children. They actually have a birthday. They both have birthdays this month, which is exciting, but a very busy month. So, that's a little bit about me. Like I said, moved to Milliken around 4 years ago. Was looking for something that was a little bit more suited for a growing family. Where we were at in Evans was just, it was busy, it was a hustle bustle. There weren't a lot of other kids around us. It was a lot of older families, things like that. So one thing that when we relocated, we wanted an area that was a little bit quieter and also had some additional young families, which is what we stumbled upon in our little cul-de-sac that we moved into. So it's been great. We thoroughly enjoy where we live and the community that we're in. We like to visit different areas around town, take part in ice cream or breakfasts at the Craft Egg, different things like that. Go for walks around the lakes, take the dogs to the dog parks, all that fun stuff that this town has to offer. I think that's a little bit about me. Why I'm running is I want to just enhance that feeling that I have and why I was drawn towards Milliken in the first place. So, things like more family-oriented activities or developments, more opportunities for families to take part in the town or businesses to go to in town, stay in town. That's really what drew me to the town originally and what I would like to see in the kind of a growth side of things in order to enhance that and encourage more families to potentially grow. Now, that raises a big question is we're very limited in growth because there really isn't any more growth opportunities for housing, that type of stuff currently. So that would be something that I would like to kind of encourage as part of my candidacy and my time on the board. I'm getting the 30 seconds, so I'm going to go ahead and wrap this up. Again, I just want to say thank you all for joining. I was not sure what would be the outcome this morning, and it's good to see so many smiling faces. So thank you all, and look forward to the questions.
Thank you very much, Brandon, and we will now hear from Ricky Rarick.
All right, first of all, my name's Rick Rarick. I'm going to stand up because I respect you all, and I want everybody to be able to see me and be able to understand my purpose for being here, for running for this office of mayor. A little bit about myself. I'm a 4th generation farm-raised individual. My family owned a large farm in both Kansas and Minnesota, and I grew up in the Four Corners area down by Cortez, which is a dynamic farming industry down there, small towns and farms. I joined the military from there. Actually went to the University of Utah for a year, and I joined the military, the United States Marine Corps. Served 23 years, various operations and situations around the world. I've been back to Colorado numerous times. My wife and I, both of our families are from this area. My wife grew up in Kersey, has lived in Greeley and here with her family. I've been in this area since the 60s and 70s. My grandparents would bring us out here to work on some of their siblings' farms here in the Loveland, Fort Collins area, so I'm very familiar with the area. Between us, we have 8 kids, and we have 15 grandchildren, so we stay busy during holidays and birthdays and things like that with our family. We're very close. My background, education, I have a bachelor's and master's degree from Grand Canyon University in emergency management and in public safety. I have an honorary doctorate in religious divinity. which I was honored to accept. Some of the other things that about me is I work for Parks and Recs, for the state Parks and Recs. Building communities, building parks, growth and development, programs for the elderly, programs for the youth are all a part of what I oversee in the emergency services for that organization. I serve on that in many capacities around the state. With that being said, why am I running? When I came into this area, over the last couple of years, we've been in and out of the area. I saw that the infrastructure, number one, is atrocious here. There are things that need to be improved. They've tried to make improvements and they're still working on it, but things can be done better. Environmental, there are things that we need to work on in this community environmentally, not just the ozone layer and things like that, but we need to take better understanding of our parks, how we're placing those parks and trails, the walking trails, the hiking trails within the city. They act as a natural fire break for wildfires and things in between the different housing areas. I come from that background and I completely understand how to build and develop a city.
Thank you, Rick.
Okay.
Thank you very much. We will now hear from Mindy Wakeman.
Hello, I appreciate Rick's sentiment in standing up. I certainly do respect you guys, but I think I probably need the mic. Is the mic working? Yes, okay, so I will use the mic. Mindy Wakeman, several of you know me for years. Those that haven't, I grew up in this area. I think we've probably lost track of what generation we are at this point. Something more than just to say we've been here forever, kind of something fun, is where the pumpkin patch is at. We're pretty sure that my great grandpa, the haunted house is maybe where he settled actually when he first came to the area. So it's kind of fun to think, and we joke with our younger ones about the haunted house with grandpa in it at the pumpkin patch. Again, lived here for my entire life. When it came time to go to college, I wasn't one of those kids that couldn't wait to leave my small town. I didn't want to leave, actually. I looked for a smaller college to go to, and I ended up settling at NJC in Sterling, out in northeastern Colorado. I went to CSU then after that, and when I got my job, I had to go to the Denver area in order to work. And once I gained experience there, I actually, funny thing, I got to the point where I needed to, I wanted to move back, and I said to my boss at the time, like, hey, I'm really at the point where I need to move back, and what should I do to make that work? And she took that as an ultimatum, and I didn't mean it that way. I just wanted to say, what can we do? How can we work for me to get back? But so, anyways, always my plan and intent to come back. I did come back and have been here since. Thankfully, I have work from home that I travel at times for, but mostly work from home. What's the other? Why did I run? To be honest, it took some encouragement from family and friends for me to run. This is my nightmare right now, speaking in front of all of you. So it took a lot of reflection, and as I reflected, I thought about what this place means to me, and that it is important for me to come back and serve and to contribute. And the secret sauce of Milliken really is community. And it's not so much a secret sauce, because we can all tell you that that's what it's about. And so being here to serve and all of us coming together is really what it takes and what I'm here for. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mindy. We will now hear from Michael Orcutt.
Well, for being your nightmare, I think you did a great job on that. Anyways, my name's Michael Orcutt. My family and I moved here in 2020 to get the heck out of the Denver metro area. I'm originally from San Diego, California, which is a dirty word to a lot of people, but I moved to Wealth County for a reason. I served 7 years in the Air Force. After that, I separated and worked for the Army Corps of Engineers as a budget analyst, where I overlooked $100 million budget for the Corps of Engineers on various data projects that they had. During that time, I used my GI Bill to obtain my bachelor's in project management and my MBA. What brought me to Colorado was my ex-wife, full disclosure. My son lives in Greeley, and we split time. One reason to move to Milliken. I really needed to be closer to him. I wanted a slower pace of life. I think I deal with some anxiety issues that I obtained from military service, and the cornfields are very, very relaxing. Getting off I-25 and going to Highway 66 and going the back way up here is my favorite way to get to Milliken. And you know, unfortunately, County Road 13 is getting a little bit more developed now, so there's less cornfields, but hopefully we don't have too much of that, more development in Milliken, residential-wise. Right now, I work for the USDA as a lead program analyst for food stamp fraud. I've been doing that for about 8 years. I oversee 8 different states and help them with prosecuting individuals that use tax dollars unwisely. So why am I running? I'm currently the chairman of the Milliken Planning Commission. This seat's pretty comfortable to me. Elizabeth and I swap it every other Wednesday when she's at the town board meetings, and I'm here on the alternate Wednesdays for the Planning Commission. I feel like I bring a lot of experience doing this for 2.5 years. When I moved here, I definitely wanted to jump in and learn the community and serve in any way I can. So I appreciate everybody coming. This is a better turnout than I think I've ever seen for pretty much anything in Milliken, so that's very exciting. And I hope to get your vote and have you guys learn a little bit more about me through the rest of this 2 hours that we have together. Thanks.
Thank you, Michael. We will now hear from Amanda Nix.
Good morning. Thank you all for being here. Thank you, Reed, for putting this on. We really appreciate the opportunity. My name is Amanda Nix. I've lived in Milliken for 13 years. Prior to living in Milliken, we lived in Johnstown. I come from a small town in upstate New York, and so Milliken is home. I've raised, my voice is shaking, sorry, don't like speaking in front of people. I've raised 9 boys in our community. Most of them have gone through our schools here. We continue to raise kids that aren't ours in Milliken, and it's a great place to bring them. We really enjoy pulling them from the larger cities and bringing them to Milliken to grow up. I think it's a great foundation. It gives them strong roots. I love this community, and I know so many of you, just from owning businesses here and just being a part of this town. I love serving my town, and I hope to continue to serve my town. I'm running for town board because I want to see Milliken stay small. I want to see it keep its charm. I don't want to become Greeley or Evans. I think that it's important to keep the quality of life that we have. I'm short and sweet. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Amanda. We will now hear from Elizabeth Austin.
Well, good morning, everyone. Thank you for giving us the time today to come down and hear what we have to say. My name is Elizabeth Austin. I am running for mayor. I moved to Milliken in 2008 from Phoenix, Arizona. Lived there for well over 40 years, and the town just got way too big. I was looking for a smaller way of life. So I found it here in Milliken. I found the town to be very charming, and I definitely want to see slow and measured growth. I was able to bring my job with me. I work for one of the largest banks designing strategies to detect money laundering and terrorist financing. So that keeps me pretty busy. I am grateful for the work from home job. I am active in the community with the Milliken Events Committee. We bring you Beef and Bean Day, skate park event, Festival of Lights, Monster Mash for the kids. So a lot of activities going on. In my time as a candidate, I'd like to build on what we've already done. There have been a lot of people that have served on the Milliken Town Board in the past, done a lot of great projects, and while serving on the board in my time, we've built on those projects, moving towards some really important solutions to problems. So I hope to, if I'm elected mayor, continue building on those projects. We've got a 3-part stormwater project where we've already done the first part, the storm drainage project, just completed the Cherry Street. One of my projects that I would like to help with is coming down County Road 21, that's where a lot of the water came from last year. We want to resolve that and funnel that water under County Road 21 over to Pheasant Hills Detention Pond. Also, water is extremely important for the town, so not only the water that we have, the water that we process, but also the water that we need for storage, and we don't have any storage, other than a 1 million gallon storage tank that was built some years ago. So rehabbing the reservoir will be an important project to pursue. It's a $20 million project. In addition, one of the important decisions that our board will be making in the next 4 years will be the sewer plant. And the sewer plant is operating at 78% capacity. Luckily, one of our previous boards purchased a modular sewer plant. That gives this board options to either re-rate or add on. That is a cost savings to us. So those are my major projects along with a sprinkling of minor projects. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you very much. We will now hear from Conrad Stevens.
Hello, everybody. How are you doing today? Thanks for coming out. We really appreciate it. My name is Conrad Stevens. I too am going to use the mic. My wife always says I mumble, so figure I'd go this route instead of standing. So I've been in Milliken for roughly about almost 10 years now. My wife and I came here from Arvada, Colorado. So we moved up here, much like everybody else did, with the goal to raise a family, get out of the hustle and bustle of the city, and kind of grow our roots and get our family in a position to where they can excel outside of the city. I've been, my background is in fire protection. I've been in the fire protection industry for roughly about 17 years. I've been through all aspects of that actual trade. I'm a father of 2 wonderful kids who are over there in the corner. I'm gonna embarrass them for a little bit. And ultimately, I decided that they're kind of the reason why I decided to run. Ultimately, whenever you're put in a position as this, you have to look at the future. You have to look at what's ahead and not what's now, right? We have to work on the problems that we have, but we also have to work on the problems that we can foresee in the future and try to better the younger generation coming in. So I have a strong business record in business leadership. Currently, I manage roughly about a $2 million portfolio in the fire industry. I'm interested in building communities that encourage growth, but not at a fast pace like everybody talks about. We want Milliken to be a small town, but we don't want to kind of be ran out of the market in a sense. We don't want to be in a position to where, as a bedroom community, we are consumed by the larger towns around us, towns and cities around us. I come from a background of small business owners. Like I said, my family's in the corner. My father-in-law runs a small business, and as I wrote in my article, I'm not sure if a lot of you had read that, I'm sorry, read the articles in the Breeze. We don't have very many outposts for small business. It's tough for the small business in Milliken to thrive, in my opinion. It's very tough when we're operating out of garages and small spaces with lack of advertisement. So that's one thing that I do want to focus on is the small business, the small community, and younger generation families. That's it for me.
Thank you very much, Conrad, and it's a perfect segue to our first question to all the candidates. what is your vision of Milliken 5 years from now? And we'll start with Rick Herrera.
Thank you. My vision, and again, I work in this industry of planning cities and growth and so forth. I think all of us here agree we want our community to stay the small community that it is. We don't want to become a Johnstown or a Greeley. There's a reason why people are moving here. My vision is to work on the balanced budget, to make sure that it's balanced. That's our primary responsibility to the citizens, is to spend their money wisely and efficiently. We need someone who can see around corners and down the future, understand what's coming to this area and what we can do with small business growth and so forth. I want the infrastructure I talked about previously. The infrastructure direly needs to be upgraded. It needs people who understand how to do it. The environment, health, overall, programs for the older adults, the younger kids coming up, and so forth, need to be implemented into the community.
30 seconds.
Okay. Safety and security. A part of my background is I've been in law enforcement for many years as well, and we can improve in that area. We've done really well, and we can continue to grow with the right leadership in the city and the right backgrounds. I think a lot of the candidates running here have exceptional backgrounds that will aid the city and the city staff, because we have a good staff.
Thank you very much, Rick. We'll now hear from Mindy Wakeman.
5 years, I think, it's interesting, I kind of had this conversation because of course it's, just part of our natural supposing, right, about what's happening around us and where it leads us. Obviously, what's happening in Johnstown certainly impacts what's happening in Milliken. And I think it's easy to see if you look up and down I-25 that you have a certain range within I-25 that's you know, compact housing potentially, little less desirable housing probably, retail, business, denser areas, and then you get 5 to 10 miles off of I-25, and you get to where people actually want to live. And that puts us in a perfect position, right? And so I think the big thing for Milliken is to focus on quality versus quantity. I think we're in a fantastic position. And I think in the past, we've always kind of been maybe somewhere where we felt like we had to take whatever came our way. I don't think we're any longer in that position. I think we need to be very deliberate about what we do. We have some really special things here that we need to be careful. It's delicate. It's a delicate balance, right? And so certainly we want new business. We want some growth, but we want to be careful about how we do that. Okay.
Thank you, Mindy. We'll now hear from Michael Orcutt.
Yeah, thank you. 5 years goes fast, right? I just recently watched the 2022 trustee board forum, and a lot of the things that were discussed then, we're still discussing now. And that's probably not for lack of trying, working for the federal government and being in the government my whole life. Things move slow, and there's a lot of red tape involved. For instance, you know, we have that Highway 60, the big stoplight issue. You know, we gotta work with CDOT on that. We don't have any control over it. I want to see Milliken not be strictly a bedroom community. I think Conrad said bedroom community. I would agree with that. Our slogan is the hub of northern Colorado, and that's a perfect slogan for us. We're 30 minutes from Fort Collins, 20 minutes from Greeley, 25 from Loveland. I mean, we have an excellent opportunity to, you know, hopefully grow businesses, homegrown businesses, and keep tax dollars in Milliken to aid for other public improvements in the future. So I liked what Mindy said as well. Quality over quantity. I'd adhere to that as well. So thank you.
Michael, we'll now hear from Amanda Nix.
So vision of Milliken in 5 years. I love Milliken the way it is, and I to grow a little bit. I do wanna make sure that we have responsible growth as we grow. We don't wanna just boom. I've been watching Johnstown's growth and so thankful that I moved away, 2 miles away, but it's away. And so I don't wanna see that for Milliken. I want Milliken to keep its charm. I want our quality of life to be better than that. Quality of life for me is having a great place to raise kids and own a small business and get to know my community, get to know my neighbors, and be able to walk down the street and see friendly faces and say hello. Want to keep our infrastructure in line with our growth, making sure that our streets are safe, that we have drainage that's already being worked on, that not a whole lot of change in 5 years. 5 years goes fast, like Michael said, it goes really fast.
Thank you, Amanda. Now hear from Elizabeth Austin.
You're correct that 5 years goes fast. What we're looking at is a 2-year low in growth because our big premier builder does not have water. So therefore, they don't have anything planted or ready to build over the next 2 years. That gives Milliken the opportunity to build more on infrastructure. When we do have building, we would like to see, in my vision, is more estate homes, larger lots. We do have quite an inventory of starter homes that are already in, but we are also governed by state legislature. And right now, there's a number of bills in front of the House and the Senate that they want to see more affordable housing. So we have to strike that balance because we do have to comply with the law. A lot of the building is governed by who owns the property and shaped by the comprehensive plan. As far as business goes, we have very little commercial property that is zoned for commercial. We only have one property that is zoned C5 for adult entertainment and marijuana, and we already have a marijuana facility on it, so we won't be having another one of those. So basically, we do want to build our industry, light and moderate industrial growth out here in our industrial park. That's one reason why we're working on 23 3/4. And over time, we already have 2 businesses that were approved out there, Shalestone and Liberty Lift. We want to see more support from Milliken with growth out that way. Thank you.
Very much, Elizabeth. We'll now hear from Conrad Stevens.
All right, so 5 years from now in Milliken, what got me to run was things like the floods, things like high taxes. I've kind of been in the positions where, from the outside looking in, it seems like whenever the town needs more money, the homeowners are the cash cow. Again, my opinion, but I do think that we will need some sort of growth in our community to try to increase tax revenue. That will only help the town. That will only help us as citizens. Also, schooling was a big one for me. My kids don't go to school here in this town, and it's very unfortunate. I think that the situation that we were kind of handed by the schooling going outside of Milliken and going to Johnstown kind of puts us at a disadvantage. So 5 years from now, I would like to see a little bit more business. I would like to see more home growth. I would like to see schooling for our kids, again, for our future. So that's where I'm at. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll now hear from Brandon Hayes.
Thank you. All right, being 7 of 7 on a similar question, I'm just gonna basically broken record. But in a little bit different sense, I was thinking about this as everyone was talking. In 5 years, I'll have a teenager and a 10-year-old, and that's slightly terrifying. But it also makes me reflect on something that Conrad just mentioned, was schooling, and the fact that, like others, my children don't attend school in the Milliken or Johnstown area. They actually go to the Greeley area, mainly because that's where my wife works as well. But it lends to a good topic, and that is schools, and that it is something that necessarily hasn't been growing for our community specifically. It has been growing rapidly in Johnstown, our partner in the school district, but not in the town of Milliken. So something that I would like to focus in on is, in addition to all these other topics that have been discussed, is how can we enhance that, or how can we protect what we do have in the way of schools for our town in order to keep our kids or encourage our kids to stay and go to school in the town. That just helps everyone, right? It helps parents, it helps childcare, helps all those types of things from leaving the area. So that's 5 years type of topic for me. Thanks.
Alright, moving forward, our next question for the panel will be, what other major issues do you feel the town is facing in the next 4 years, and what specific plans or ideas do you have to address them? I believe we're starting with Mindy Wade here.
Crazy enough, it's almost like there's a plan to start talking about the schools. For this question, I think, it's easy to say infrastructure and growth and planning, those are the easy things to talk about. It's something that we're gonna constantly talk about, right? I'm sure some of you know about my grandma's scrapbooks, and I look back and 30 years ago, we're still talking about water, we're still talking about roads and sewer, and 30 years from now, we'll still be talking about those things, and not to say they don't need their due attention, we certainly do. A couple other things, just kind of smaller details maybe, in talking about the schools is, I'm really concerned about what's happening with the Milliken Middle School, and obviously, I was actually in the task force meeting before Bond started, kind of what the plan was, what the possibilities were for the direction the school was going. And the scenario in which the middle school was built was worst case scenario and a gut punch for us. And it happened. So now I'm concerned what actually happens with that building and what we do to maintain it. And certainly I think the town needs to partner. I'm at my 30-second mark, so I need to move to my second thing. I'm actually really, really concerned about this election. We're in a situation where our current board members were new board members this last year. They've been on the board for 2 years. And currently, all of us that are looking to run outside of Elizabeth are new board members too. And so we're currently looking at a board with mostly 2-year experience going forward. And then those of us at a very, very early stage coming on. Thank you.
Moving on, Michael.
Yeah, thanks. Issues the town will be facing in the next 4 years. Affordable housing is definitely one of them. As a board, we can only try to help with affordable housing. We can't smack down the gavel and tell developers, you will build this, you will build that. We can try to incentivize them as such. As Elizabeth said, there are things at the state level that tell developers how many units they need to have as dense housing or single family homes. But with talking with other members of the community and a couple of things that I've done around town before today, senior housing is a huge one. We have Dove Valley, and that's it. The comprehensive plan just got completed. I was an integral part of that. And between 2010 and 2020, the 65 plus population more than doubled. So I feel like that's a very important thing to push and look at. Commercial property is extremely important, and that'd be important to me to have commercial property not on our major areas of housing population, so it kind of keeps everything a little bit more dispersed. We got 10 seconds, man, a minute and 30 seconds goes fast. So I hope to talk more about this later, and I have to stop, so thank you.
Amanda, next.
I think one of the issues that we see facing our town is safety along Highway 60. I know that it is a Colorado state highway, and so we have to work with the state, and we're kind of at their mercy with what we can do with it. I do feel like, especially driving through town at night, our lighting is terrible. As I get older, it's harder to see. and you can't see people in the crosswalks. And so addressing the lighting issue in town, making sure that our streets are well lit, so we're not hitting anyone. As we get out of town, traffic lights, we just need to keep working with the state. Too many accidents are happening. But I agree with schools. I'm sad to see the middle school go. I was on that same panel with Indy, and we fought really hard to keep some schools here in Milliken, but we were shut down. So if there's anything that we can do to work towards getting a school back, besides charter schools and having a public school here in Milliken for our kids, I think that's a really important issue. Thank you.
Thank you. Elizabeth Austin?
Okay, in the next 4 years, again, we do want that stoplight at Centennial. The town is forward looking at that. We're working on the 23 and 3/4 project, at which point we will put in conduit. So when we do get that light approved, it's very easy to install. In 2 years or so, we'll be looking at growth coming back through home building. Also, in the next 4 years would be that Hillsborough Reservoir, as I had previously mentioned. Other things that will be important for us to take a look at is I did serve on one of the school board committees. Rehabbing Milliken Middle School without tearing it all down is a $30 million project, was our last estimate. So we need to figure out what we're gonna do with that school. It does have some asbestos in it that needs to be addressed and other things. It does need to be brought up to par, and it needs to be available for our children. Whether the school board decides to make it elementary school, is on, I don't know what they're gonna do, but we need to support whatever they need to do for our town. So, those would be my major projects in the next 4 years. Thank you.
Thank you. Conrad Stevens?
All right, so I'm gonna touch on 2 points, so I don't ramble on, sorry guys. Water quality is a big thing, I think, in this town. A lot, I'm not on Facebook, but they're talking to people around the town as one big issue that they have, whether it's the smell of the water, the oil notices, things like that. I think that water quality is a big issue. I think that, with the public's confidence in water quality, they have confidence in their town. I think roads is another, big issue in the town. I think that we should leverage, businesses such as the oil companies and things like that to help us build that infrastructure. There's Kersey's a great example of, teaming up with the private sector to, help build the infrastructure. If we're gonna allow, fracking and things like that to come into the town, well, we should have them, help us build some roads and repair roads and things like that. So I think that those are the 2 big ones in the next 4 years, along with education, that, we should be looking at. That's it.
Thank you. Brendan Hayes?
Yeah, so, issues over the next 4 years, I think, Elizabeth has touched on it quite, in both of her comments on the fact that over the next 2 years, there will be a lull in growth from a housing side. And I think that stagnation and carried over maybe potentially even 2 to 4 years or even further is gonna be, the biggest issue for the town, because with that comes a lack of growth in, taxes, generated from housing growth and that type of thing. So I think the budget is gonna be probably the biggest issue of the next 4 years that will have to be faced by the board. And hopefully, through some clever, infrastructure type things and that type of stuff, we can use what we have wisely while anticipating the fact that there is gonna be a lull in growth. I'm gonna leave it at that and make it short and sweet.
Thank you. Rick?
Okay. For the next 4 years, I see supporting our businesses and limited business growth as the availability increases for small businesses in this community, and the interaction between the community and the farming community around us, making sure that we have that strong bond and we're supporting each other in things like water and traffic, some of the other things that have been mentioned already. The 2023 improvement program that was done, study on it, and the items that came out of that, water, stormwater, and the drainage system for this town. There's been multiple floods in the town over the years. I personally am a victim of last year's flood, and it was atrocious, and it could have been stopped. They should have done the prior planning to make sure those things were done, but that wasn't. And as far as experience, Mindy mentioned experience, it is time to bring in some people who have actual experience in this and can lead the city going forward with real experience. So that will finish.
Thank you very much. We'll now open it up to questions from the audience. As Leslie said, we're already seeing sort of a trend in some questions, so if you don't hear your question asked exactly like it was. Yes, Tom? Oh,
You
no.
want a question?
Written, no, written question.
Oh, written question.
Yeah, if you want to write a question, Sarah or Jen can give you a thing. This is for the mayoral candidates. This is for Conrad and Rick. We'll start with Conrad. What preparation has prepared you to lead the board right off rather than working up, quote, through the ranks as a trustee?
So I think that if I leverage my experience as a business leader, I think that would give me a good advantage. Sometimes it's good to have an outside perspective coming into something rather than building up. Sometimes you need a fresh look at things rather than the can'ts, the no's. It's cheesy. There's always the cheesy lines of in business, but the idea that no doesn't grow. So we get into these situations where we get lackadaisical in the sense that this is the way it is and this is the way it will always be. I think it's a fresh perspective coming in that I can be a good candidate or a good a force on that side of things. Sorry. Go ahead.
Thank you, Conrad. We'll now hear from Rick.
Yeah, my experience is, again, my leadership experience for communities. During my time in the military, my last job was the Deputy Director of Operations and Training for 9 of the largest bases in the United States. Up to 330,000 people in multiple small camps or housing areas, which are the equivalent to a small city. That job is the same as being a county commissioner or mayor. You have to work with your surrounding communities and find areas of compatibility and things that you can work on. It develops housing as well, limited housing in the military. I think that being a small business owner of 2 successful small businesses leads you in that direction to be able to lead a community. I get out and I walk the city streets and I talk to the community members in the housing areas and the businesses, and they're not happy with what they've had.
Thank you very much.
Moving forward, this is a question for all the candidates. In what ways are you currently serving Milliken now?
And where do we want to start? We start with Michael, I believe, Michael Orcutt.
Yes.
Michael Orcutt, all right. I'd rather have this than a crazy question that I can't hear a little bit about before, to be honest. Right now, I'm currently the chairman of the Milliken Planning Commission. I've started on the Milliken Planning Commission in 2021. Saw a posting for it, went for it and got appointed when our previous chairman, Kevin Garrett, decided to move to Florida. There was an opening for the chairman, and everybody wanted me to do it. So I'm not sure if that was a good thing or if I was missing something. But I've been heavily invested in the community from that perspective and understanding the governmental workings of things. We recommend things for the board to either approve or deny, and I feel like that's very important in the experience, especially since there are no incumbents on this election on the trustee side, so having some experience in that is great. I'm also the HOA president for my community as well. So, thank you.
Thank you. Mandy?
I currently serve on the Community Justice Council. We meet once a quarter with Sylvia Martinez, and come up with ideas how we can keep our kids in Milliken safe and how we can help them in our court system. With the schools moving to Johnstown, we're working with an intergovernment agreement with Johnstown to bring our kids back to Milliken to do their community service and put them through our restorative justice schools. I also am in charge of doing Trick or Treat Street at Halloween for the businesses. As a business owner, I didn't want to see that go away when the chamber dispersed. And so I took that on so we can keep our kids doing Trick or Treat Street. I also serve with our church. We do big picnics in the park every summer and just help people in our community that need help.
Thank you. Elizabeth Austin?
I have served on the Milliken Town Board since 2016 as a trustee, and 2020 since the mayor. In addition, I serve as the president of the Milliken Events Committee. I touched on this earlier. We do a skate park event, the Big Beef and Bean Day, which is 100 years this year. We do the Monster Mash, which is in conjunction with Trick or Treat Street, so we support each other with that for the children and serve a free lunch. And then we do the Festival of Lights to close out the year. I think our town festivals are pretty important. In addition, I support Love Thy Neighbor, and every year at Christmas we support their drive for Christmas presents. They did not mention that. They like to ensure that our children that have less than are actually taken care of. And so I would like to promote that Love Thy Neighbor does that as well. So very important social projects. Thank you.
Conrad Stevens?
All right, so I serve on the Metro District of the Centennial Crossing Metro District 2. I am the secretary of that district. We did a lot of work to try to get the swimming pool expanded and finally got that job done, finished. We work with the town on any sort of capital projects. If the town needs assistance with any sort of funding or anything like that, the Metro District is there to assist with that if requested. Sometimes it doesn't always go that way, I know, but that's the majority of it. And I'm a father of 2 young kids in the community. So, yep, those are my 2 things.
Thank you. Moving over to Brandon.
So since moving to the town 4 years ago, I've been a member of the Go Mill committee. Had been and will continue to be once it gets reestablished later this year. And then in addition, I am serve on my HOA board for Colony Point community. So those are the 2 current involvements in addition to just being in the town and around town and taking part in different activities like Trick or Treat Street and Beef and Bean Days, that type of stuff. So that's my involvement. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good question.
Rick Weber?
Yeah, my involvement in the community is I'm a member of the local Kiwanis Club. I'm a life member of the Veterans of Foreign Wars, the VFW, and the American Legion. I do a lot of volunteer work through them in the different communities, Johnstown events that they have going on. I do volunteer work in our community in the Centennial Farms area with my neighbors. I volunteered to work with the Milliken Police Department doing specialized training that I did at the federal level. I've offered to help them with that, and I've applied for consideration to be on one of the previous boards and was not accepted for that, which is fine. But I continually look for areas and different avenues to support my community.
Great. And finishing up with Mindy Wakeman.
Well, I go to church a lot. I've been a lifelong member of Milliken Presbyterian Church, which of course we, look to support many different projects in the area. I actually also go to Love Thy Neighbor at times. Just 2 different approaches, both very good churches. I encourage everybody to check each one out, and just different styles for different strokes for different folks, kind of thing, right? And so, but both churches have a nice working relationship to help serve in different capacities, and I overall like to think of myself as a gap filler. I'm not a extremely outgoing person, but I do hang around and look to where I can fill a need. And so through church, both churches, also in community programs, I just look to fill in. Thanks.
Thank you very much. And we will now move on to the next question, and we'll start with Amanda. Several people have asked this question, so I'm kind of combining them together here. What businesses would you like to bring to Milliken, and how would you propose to do it? So what type of businesses would you like to bring to Milliken, and how would you propose doing it? And we'll start with Amanda.
That's a really hard question. I think that we have amazing businesses here. I don't know. That's tough. I think the businesses that are offered here are all amazing. We have great coffee shop, we have great restaurants, we have a couple hair salons, we have automotive shops, maybe we have one daycare, maybe another daycare would be really great. I see a lot of people in need of daycare for their young kiddos, and so I think bringing in someone to take care of kids, you know, helping them get here, finding a place. So that's the hardest part, is finding places for businesses. There's not a lot of room that's already established for that kind of business growth. I think for businesses that are in town, we're pretty lucky to have our spaces. So, thank you.
How about a barbecue restaurant?
Get that free. Come to the events.
We'll now hear from Elizabeth.
Okay, I would like to see a little more variety in our restaurants, but here again, we don't have the commercial property available for them to go into. An all-night pharmacy would be nice, or at least one with extended hours where people get prescriptions filled. Would fill a need in our community, as well as an urgent care would be nice. So those are things that would be important to the community. I would see growth out at Highway 60 interchange as being important, as well as at the 257 and 402, consistent with our comprehensive plan, and it would depend upon what businesses wanted to come here. We are not large enough yet for a grocery store. We need 10,000 rooftops for that. So therefore, we will have to do some growing before that is a possibility. We have had 2 grocery stores look at our town, and they have said when the time is right, they would be willing to come in. Thank you.
All right. So as far as businesses, I think food, kind of touching on what Elizabeth's saying as far as grocery. Pretty much the best we got is Dollar General. Sometimes it's a mess. It's hard to wade through some of that stuff, right? Even some sort of grocery store, even if it's not something large. You know, at one point in time, Walmart tried their hand at, you know, just small markets, something like that. I think that we can probably try to see if Hayes or maybe a smaller chain would be willing to, you know, give us a little bit of help, I guess, in things like meat, fresh produce, things like that. We don't have to go to Greeley or Johnstown to get that stuff. Coffee, I think, is a big one for everybody. Something that opens before 7 o'clock, and activities for kids. I was on the 10 second, now I got the 30 second. So activities for families. You know, we've got a lot of, we don't have a lot of crime in Milliken, but the crime we do see is from children. Well, younger kids, they don't have anything to do, there's no outlet. So things like that I think would be beneficial for our town. And Traders Junction I think would be a good spot to try to get those businesses to start with, build.
Yeah, I will kind of continue my voice of what others have said. I think labor type businesses, in order to promote growth or encourage those that are here to work in the community that they live in, would be something that would be beneficial. I think childcare is a huge thing. You know, it is something that as a father of two young children, I have struggled with. Luckily enough, we were able to find a childcare provider that has been consistent for the 5 years of my youngest child, but I know others struggle every 6 months. The place they're at is closing or moving or something like that. So I think childcare would be great. And then some form of small fresh food grocery. I believe we have something potentially similar coming in. So encouraging that and supporting it to keep that growth, because that is definitely something that is critical for our community. Thank you.
I obviously do not want national chain restaurants or businesses coming in here. We need to keep it local because we have an abundance of local talent here in the town. I see it walking around, visiting with the different neighborhoods. We do have the market coming in, the Mex-Cal next door, which will provide produce and fresh meats and so forth, which are vital to the community. I'm excited for that. I like those types of mom and pop organizations and supporting them. Clinics, we need to definitely have some type of urgent care or some type of clinic. I'm stunned we don't have it already. And daycare needs to be done. I've talked to some of the daycare providers, and they're unhappy. They're not happy with how they've been treated. They're not happy with having to outsource part of their daycare to Johnstown. So we need to fix that problem and address it. We keep it within. And using our open spaces.
Mindy. I kind of feel like we're playing telephone a little bit, but I'm not sure I remember what the question was. You know, when it comes to business, certainly we all get excited about new business, right? But the reality is for our size, we need to look at what's viable, and perishable products are difficult in a town this size. And so realistically, we're probably looking at service-oriented business that would do well here. We all love the new business to come in, but we need to be sure we attend that business and take care of it. I think a new business is that new shiny thing, right? We all look at it and go to support it initially, and then forget that it's there. We get back into our routine, and so I think that's probably the biggest focus for us. And I guess personally, I would caution against medical in our community. Obviously, the faster that we can get medical attention is the better, but quality medical is a higher priority versus something around the corner. I think that we can get to a larger facility that has more access to better service.
I feel Brandon's sentiment now of being last on this. I have 5 things listed, and pretty much all of them have been discussed already, so I'll try not to do too much duplication. But as I stated before, we have a very large elderly or older population. Quality urgent care would be nice. Definitely want quality. Dentist office or something like that would be great. Daycare, I fully agree with. I have a newborn, and already, man, amazing. I have a newborn, and it was very difficult to find daycare. We're a 2-income household, to afford to live in Colorado, and staying at home wasn't an option. So I appreciate those things, and looking into expanding, like Elizabeth said, hopefully to the 257, 402, County Road 54 corridor in the future to maybe expand some businesses out there to bring in tax base for Milliken, but leave our downtown not as clogged with traffic. Thank you.
The next question will also be for all the candidates, and we want to know, what does community building mean to you, and how involved do you plan to be with the groups that purpose to build community? Sorry, what?
Oh, what does community planning mean to you?
So, what does community building mean to you, and how involved do you plan to be with the various groups that purpose to build community here? Elizabeth.
Yes, it would come to me, so. All right, I'm going to have to make some assumptions with this question. Community building meaning people that build in our community. There is a prescribed method that goes through our planning department, then to our planning commission, up to the town board. So certainly I would try to support any business that meets our comprehensive plan and the land requirements, whatever they're building on. And the town board has, when it comes to building, some prescribed methodologies. That's considered quasi-judicial, and so we can only have so much communication on those items. So I would plan to support growth, but be careful with the quasi-judicial items. Thank you.
So I kind of took that question a little bit different. Community building to me is bringing the town and people together. I think transparency within our local government and things like that is key. I think, social media has its ups and downs, but probably a little bit more information as to what's going on, more events. Like I keep touching on the family thing, but more events with families, more things that we can do to get together as a community and talk with one another. I think our community is very, it's kind of sectioned out between the different developments, right? Colony Point, Settlers Village, and all those things. Everybody looks at Milliken from their main suburb, whether it's the older part or the newer buildings out on 19. I think that community building would be great with, community building would be good for more transparency, more activities, things that we can do together as a town.
So community building, me kind of how do you get the community involved in different things? So I'm going to kind of echo a little bit what Conrad said is the activities, the events. While I was on Go Mill for a short period of time while I was active, that was one of the things that we were trying to do as a committee was how do we bring more events to draw people in and have community things. Not to the scale of Beef and Bean Day, but still large, or medium-sized events that could draw people in. Things around the dog park. How can we maybe have activities or events around the dog park? How do we bring some type of event to downtown to encourage kind of like a downtown growth? Maybe similar to Trick or Treat Street, drawing a blank. But like maybe in the summer, how do we encourage the ice cream? Like, that type of stuff. That's to me what would help with community building, what I would like to be part of.
Yeah, for me, community building, I agree, is how will we grow the community, how will we get them involved with each other from the different housing areas or different perspectives. Obviously for construction, we have the planning commission who look at all the different ways and things that we're going to propose to build, and they bring that to the board. But within the community, we need to have programs for the adults, for the older adults, the young adults. We need to do programs that can support young entrepreneurs, like in some of the parking lots, and that's okay. And bringing food stands and things like that from the community, so everyone can enjoy it and get out and get to know each other. How will I be involved? Obviously, I get out and I walk the communities and I engage the people. I talk to the businesses on a routine basis here in town. Housing areas are a big thing to get out to their festivals and their get-togethers. And my engineering background helps me with understanding how to develop and build.
Could you repeat the question?
Yes, so the question is, what does community building mean to you? And how involved do you plan to be, sorry, with the various groups that purpose to build community?
Okay, now we're talking about that secret sauce that I talked about, right? That always has been Milliken. Community, realistically, when we talk about funding, when we talk about taxes and money and infrastructure, that's not what's made Milliken special. And certainly those are important things, and again, we want to focus on them, but what's made things special to us is our community, and the fact that you can serve your community at the same time as socializing, and that's what it has been in the past. And certainly I would encourage everyone, I know that a lot of people in this room are already involved, but certainly I think, let's get back to those roots of bringing people in and enjoying each other's company while we're serving each other. And certainly it's a passion of mine, and something we should all look to get involved with. That being said, there is a chicken noodle dinner tonight at the Milliken Presbyterian Church. And I would encourage everyone to come. It's really about serving and people enjoying each other. So
Sorry.
5 o'clock.
I like the plug. Community, I'm glad that I've heard other people, because I was kind of going down the rabbit hole that Elizabeth was going down at first, so I've gotten the chance to jot down some new ideas. But empowering our citizens in our community to feel comfortable voicing ideas to us is what community means to me. Jimmy Sin back there, I'm gonna call him out a little bit. He's proposed an idea for a cooking competition at Beef and Bean Day for Colony Point, for Settler Village, for Centennial Farms. I think that's great, you know, a little friendly competition, some good food, and food brings people together, right? It's a common thing that we all need, no matter what our political beliefs are, religious, whatever. So another thing, I've talked with people in the community, community cleanup would be great. Put roll-off bins, trash bins, in the different parts of the community. See if Roosevelt High School students need community service hours, and see if we have some type of lottery system to help people clean up their yards and other parts of their homes. So, thanks.
So community building is super important. I'm already involved in a lot of ways in doing that. I think it's really important to know your neighbor. Everybody goes to work, comes home, drives in the garage, shuts the door, and then doesn't come back out. And so that's something that we've been striving to change in the last 5 years. I think we've been doing Love Thy Neighbor project and having barbecues in each individual park in subdivisions, and we've moved to having big barbecues in Lola Park, and just getting to know each other and being around each other and loving each other. And if you need help, then someone can help you, because you know someone that'll help you. Just being involved together is really important in building that community.
Okay. Now move on to another audience question for all the candidates. And we'll start with Conrad. What would one radical idea be that you'd like to see implemented if elected? Radical is in quotes.
Radicals in quotes, huh? Radical idea, man, that's a tough one. That's is that the crazy one you were talking about? Radical idea, gosh, I don't know. I don't know, that's a stumper. I'm not 100% sure what radically different we would do as far as moving, if I were elected. Man, I don't know. That's a stump, that's a tough one. I would pass on that one.
Randy.
Well, I had 40-ish seconds to think of something. I would go with, I mean, it's not necessarily radical, but something that's maybe radical for what we have now is some form of complex or building or business for multi-use activities. So a complex that we can do bowling at, or a skating rink. I remember as a kid going to a skating rink in Pueblo all the time. Something like that could drag people to them, going on with our community building idea from the last question, but would bring people in, bring kids in, bring children, bring families, that type of stuff. It shouldn't seem like a radical idea, but right now it kind of feels radical for our community. So that's where I'm gonna go with.
Okay. I've actually had several great ideas thrown at me about, if I'm elected, will I implement this? And it's like at the Rocky Mountain storage lot over there. they have a large, flat paved area. They would like to have people come in there from the community, set up tents, kind of like a flea market type deal. And they would like to see an expansion of that type of a community event, where people who are working out of their garages, little pet projects, can come out there. Everyone from the city can come out, from the surrounding community can come out, and they can walk around and engage each other, and yet enjoy and see the different things that each of those individuals has put out there, whether they're selling them or just showing their skills. It's something that it's designed, again, on the previous question, is designed to bring the community together.
I'm nervous about saying my radical idea. I'm gonna say this now, I think it should be tested and approved and everything explored, so please don't be fearful of this, but I actually think something that could be beneficial is to potentially have days or circumstances in which we permit people to drive. You can currently drive a golf cart, but a lot of us have side-by-sides. And if we had some times that we could do some days that side-by-sides were permitted to be driven in town, it would certainly encourage people to stay in town, service our businesses while in town. I think there's some parameters that need to be put on that. If it could be, we want people to do this in a controlled way, but I actually think a lot of people would be interested. It would be a fun thing, and I think it would bring more people to town to attend our businesses that we do have.
I second the side-by-sides. I actually looked up the side-by-side thing when I moved to Milliken, because I do live off a dirt road, kind of by the tower, so that'd be pretty awesome. A radical idea, I'm gonna go, I'm a 90s kid, so rad, I'm gonna go with a cool thing. I think our own high school would be freaking awesome, and it's radical because we just got a brand new one in Johnstown. However, they're already gonna be overgrown pretty soon, with all the development on Highway 60 going out towards the new Buc-ee's and up and down I-25. I think it would be awesome for Milliken to have its own high school where you could have that in-town or cross-town rivalry with Roosevelt and everything like that. So that's a pie in the sky look, but I think it would really bring our community even more together to support our kids and sports, and that would be my radical idea.
Not very rad. Kind of lame. I'm sorry. I don't have huge radical ideas. I love the side-by-side idea. Mindy and I have actually talked about that before. And I've actually driven mine around for even weekday. And it's really nice. But I think, and I would love to have a high school in Milliken again. Because we used to have a high school in Milliken. Sorry if any of you went there. But I think those two things are pretty awesome that we could work on maybe. And having a bowling alley. I love to bowl. Having one here would be awesome, not having to drive every week.
Or an activity center.
There you go.
Elizabeth.
All right, so if you want radicals that go way out there, I would love to have a theme park. With a Ferris wheel and go-karts and everything that for children as they're growing up, they remember going to and enjoying and having their birthday parties and things like that. So, pie in the sky idea, I would want a theme park.
With the bowling.
All right, I got an idea, guys. It's radical. Nothing crazy though. How about some car shows at Beef and Bean Days? Let's get more than just the we'll sell you some window tests. There's my radical idea. More activities rather than just
Working out
just
of
that.
houses.
Thank you. I'll be soliciting you.
All right.
They are one.
All right, next question is kind
Legally
of
and
a piece put
enhancing
together,
our
but the
community.
main premise is how are you gonna plan to work with local towns, especially Johnstown, knowing how big it's been growing? And yeah, just what's your plan to cooperate with other towns?
Oh, I have the cholera problem this time.
They'll come back to you.
I was jotting down the question so I could remember it and then realize how it was first. How I plan to work with local towns? It's gonna be a learning curve. I will admit, just have to figure out whether that's going to, you know, the local, so we have, you know, Johnstown, Platteville, Evans, Windsor, if it's going to their town meetings in order to get face-to-face time with their board or their representatives, that's what will need to be done. You gotta interface somehow, and you know, an email or a text message or a phone call in today's modern age doesn't necessarily always get it done like a face-to-face handshake does. So that would be kind of my thought and my how I would go about doing it if need to, and will need to, basically.
Thank you. Nick?
Yeah, obviously, over the years that the different positions that I've held, we've always had to interact with other cities, whether it was military bases or communities. We always have to interact, and you have to have that good communication with your sister or neighboring communities. I know from the board meeting the other night, we have exchanged properties between Johnstown, or identified the boundaries between us. Well, that's a physical boundary. That doesn't mean we have to have a personal boundary with those people. We should work hand in hand with our sister cities around us. They support us, we support them in many aspects of all the happenings within the city. I'm not a big email guy, I concur. You need to go out, shake their hand, sit down, look them in the eye, and understand where they're coming from and what their desires are for working with us. And we find that happy medium, an area where we can work together.
I'm sorry, I only have to have a question.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
was so engrossed in listening that I didn't forget.
No worries, just basically the gist of it is how we're gonna plan to collaborate and work with neighboring towns.
As mentioned, and I kind of feel like I can't really, I don't want to speak to this as if it's my own, because I've just observed what's been happening with Cheryl working with surrounding towns for the intergovernmental agreements on, you know, properties and planning, in terms of planning for growth. I think that's excellent, and I'm very pleased that that work is happening. And the agreement was just approved, with Johnstown, this last board meeting, and so that's a fantastic, thing to come into play. Those of us around here also know that, Johnstown, of course, is our closest neighbor, and even though we're individual cities and we've struggled for our own identity at times, kind of like siblings do, we're still family. And so we do, we have our own identity in Milliken, but we care what happens in Johnstown, and certainly we care what happens in the other cities that are around us. And so I think that natural form of bond carries us through, to be honest, and it just comes down to respecting each other, and as well as taking care of ourselves.
Yeah, in my professional life, worked for the federal government, I've had to work with state agencies quite often. Sometimes the feds and the state don't play nice together, so being a voice of reason within those situations, I feel like is something that is a strong suit for me. And being on the planning commission, we get county referrals quite often, which we can make recommendations for other towns. Luckily, I'm remote, I work from home, I have a very flexible schedule, so whatever is needed of me, kind of outside the regular board meetings, I can generally accommodate, whether that's a county commissioners meeting, they have them like on Thursdays at 1 or something like that. I think they do that on purpose. Yeah, I can be available and look forward to working with our surrounding communities. Johnstown does have their own election going on right now. There could be a flip in the board there that could bring some new voices and new ideas to help us come together more. Thank you.
Yeah, so I already have experience working with other towns, being on the Community Justice Council. We do work with Johnstown, and so we invite the people that are involved with what we're doing in Johnstown to our meetings, communicate through emails, make sure that we can collaborate together for our youth and do what's in the best interest of our communities. So I can see that wouldn't be a hard collaboration if I were to be elected for town board. just keeping that open. They are our sister city. They're there, they're not going anywhere, and we're here, and so we need to get along, not fight like siblings.
Okay, so the IGAs are a starting point in defining boundaries, but then working across those boundaries. We already have several finding examples. The most recent one was where we tried to put together the Aloe project, bring more internet choice to town. We went in with Bertha, Meade, Johnstown, and ourselves. Put a lot of work into that. Unfortunately, it didn't come to fruition, but it is an example of how towns can work together to get better services for the citizens. Luckily for us, Comcast, that Cheryl had pursued quite a bit, because Johnstown is going with Comcast, Comcast is now coming to Milliken. So we do get some benefit off of our sister cities, and certainly we currently support for the school the truancy program for the schools, regardless of whether they're in Johnstown or Milliken. So there are ways already that we're working together. Thank you.
All right, so as Brandon said, I would be pretty new to this as well. But I going through other small towns and talking to a couple of those different towns' boards and people on their boards, I think it would be beneficial for our town board, our mayor, and everybody else to go out and maybe take a field trip to those other communities and see what they're doing well, see what they're not doing, what wouldn't work for Milliken. I look at the town of Eaton, and you know, it's a pretty little place. They've got what a lot of people in Milliken are looking for. So I think that it would be beneficial for us to go and see what they have done, what's worked, and what hasn't.
Thank you, comment. And now we have a question specifically for Rick Rarick. Why are you listed as a write-in candidate?
Oh, I get this question everywhere I go in the city. I'm listed as a write-in because the deadline for submitting your application for running for office, I was on my way home from Arvada. I work in emergency management. I left work early that day to come up here to drop off my application, and we received a emergency call for an active shooter at one of our 13 facilities down in the Golden Arvada area. Obviously, my concern for my employees and the people involved, I turned around, went down there to handle that situation. And then the only avenue left, since I missed the deadline, was the write-in candidate. So, which they never had one. So we're both learning how to do it.
Thank you very much, Rick.
This question is for the full panel. So small businesses working out of houses, how are we gonna make sure that they are operating legally and enhancing our community as well?
And we start with Rick. Repeat that?
Yes, so small businesses working out of houses, how do we make sure they are operating legally and enhancing our community?
Yeah, any small business or any business, whether it's local or national, has certain standards that they have to adhere to, certain measures that they have to meet to operate that business. We do have some, without being on the board or having access to that information, for not being a board member or a city council member, we would look at that and we would determine what are you doing, how are you doing it, are you legally doing it, because we don't want anybody to get into trouble, we don't want anybody to get fined, and we would turn around and reach out to that individual, call them in and say, you know, probably more than likely through the city would handle it, but we would call them in and we would say, you know, you need to fill out the proper forms, you need to fill out the proper requests, and get all the information, because we want to see you succeed. What can we do as a city to help you succeed? Because far too many of them are being turned away for, you know, small problems, and they're going away.
Yeah, certainly it's part of what our community is having some, you know, it's a large portion of our business. And certainly I'm for individual rights and people will be able to use their properties as they so wish, as long as that doesn't infringe on their neighbors, which is why we have ordinances. And so I feel like we fall back on our ordinances, and I think that it needs to be a very objective process in determining, you know,
clients and asking how we can help them do that.
Yeah, I support all businesses. A large cost is construction, and a large reason people can't afford to get into businesses. A lot of businesses do start in the home, and then maybe expand to a commercial location after if they've, gotten popular and they have a following. We have great town staff here. I know them pretty well. They look over all these applications for permits and everything like that. Besides that, I think that we need to support anybody that wants to set up business, whether it's out of their home or on Broad Street or, Traders Junction, and give them the support that they need to be successful.
I think that we already have a really great system in place for home businesses, for any businesses. So I own a business on Broad Street, and I also have a business that we run from our home. And so we have to meet state requirements, we have to have retail sales tax licenses, we have to have city business licenses. There's a lot of things that we have to have in place to have a home business. The staff at Town Hall takes very good care of all of that. They correspond with me via email. Sometimes I get a phone call if I'm missing something. And if things aren't done in time, then we get fined for that. So just continuing to support that system that we already have in place is the best support for home business.
I support home-based businesses within reason. I don't support all home-based businesses because if you have hazardous waste on your property, that does not belong in a home. So we have to be careful. We do have a permitting process for home-based businesses. And a great example of a home-based business that became a reality on Broad Street is the Milliken Animal Clinic, previous owners, not the current owners. They started out in the basement of their home. I know because I took my dogs there. And slowly they grew to the point where they were able to take over a storefront downtown. So that's the type of business that we want to encourage and grow. And certainly home-based businesses are a large part of our community. Thank you.
Yeah, I'd have to kind of reiterate Mindy's sentiment on the idea that we don't necessarily want the town government knocking on doors and trying to see what you're doing and whatnot. I personally have gone through a permitting process with Carrie, and it went very smooth. As long as the businesses are doing what they need to do, per the law, I suppose. I don't see that we would really have too many issues unless anybody has anything specific for what that type of enforcement would look like. I think there's only so many ways that you can do, town enforcement on home-based businesses. I think that, the free market will kind of take care of that situation. If they're doing something that isn't just or goes against people's morals, then so with social media, those things will be heard, and eventually they will be, the doors will be shut. So I think that our process is, at least with the town, is a pretty good setup.
I will just go on the, just communication and support bandwagon. How can we encourage communication between the town and those business owners? How can we support them? How can we encourage sustainable growth of that business? How do we do things like how do we encourage things like the animal clinic? How do we migrate from small businesses in garages or basements to open buildings on whether that be certain different locations that are available? And as a board, that would be kind of how I would look at it, is how do we communicate, how do we support, how do we encourage those small businesses? Not exactly the question, but how I can answer it, I guess.
Thank you very much. Now move on to another audience question. We've had several people ask this same question kind of in different manners. And we will start with Mindy. As we've already talked about, the two last decisions about school sites have gone to Johnstown. I know that has caused some concern in Milliken. How would you propose to work with the school district?
Certainly, it's been an ongoing thing, and historically,
ourselves in a situation with all of our shared districts in which we become the minority, right? And now that at this point we share the rec district, the fire district, as well as the school district, and so it's the same scenario for all those situations, and we have become the minority, and so we do have the same challenges that come with that, even at any scale. So certainly we have to continue advocating for ourselves, and it becomes difficult because I think we feel shut down constantly, right? But we really need to gain momentum in numbers. We need more people to participate and express their opinions and concerns about where things are going when it comes time to work with the school district.
Yeah,
Sorry, Mindy's microphone doesn't work, so when she talks, I can't.
Oh.
So, I'm playing a game.
Sorry, I'll share.
I have such a bold voice that I'm not sure why it's a problem.
Sorry, I'm gonna piggyback off what Mindy said. I think involvement is something that a lot of times is lacking within our community. We just did the comprehensive plan, which is a long-range planning document. We did multiple workshops and maybe had 15 to 20 people out of 80, 200 residents that we have. I'd be willing to sit down with the school district, listen to their points of view, and try to figure out common ground on hopefully bringing some schools back to Milliken, because I think that's very important for our community to have schools here. Along with that, I think empowering members of the community to run for school board positions when they come available. We're underrepresented in Milliken for school board positions, and I think having a member, just like having somebody like us on your board of trustees to advocate for you, we need that person, those people, the right people in the school board to try to advocate for us. So, thank you.
I think communication with the school board is really important, going to those board meetings. There's a lack of people attending board meetings. I've been attending town board meetings, and unless there's a really big something on the agenda, there's nobody here. It's just the couple of us that are in the peanut gallery watching what's going on. And so it's kind of sad. It's disheartening to see our community not come out to be community and support the schools and the town board. This is your legislation, this is your government, this is your school district, and I think our voices need to be heard, but our voices aren't gonna be heard unless we make our voices heard. And so going and being that voice is really important.
All right, so people know that I've been very harshly critical of the school board and how our cash and money was spent, that was earned in this town, but not spent in this town. I did serve with Cheryl on the last advisory committee, and I do believe that for Milliken Middle School to become viable again, even if it's as an elementary school, it's gonna take a bond. And that bond needs to be for Milliken only. No extra pieces, it just needs to be focused on one school and getting that school up and running. When you add on extra money for different projects, it dilutes the purpose of the bond, and people get suspicious as to whether or not that money is going to be spent truly for what it is intended. So I'm going to be a strong advocate for a bond just for Milliken Middle School to get it up and running and bring it back to our community as a community school. Thank you.
All right, Amanda took my thunder. Guys, the whole reason why we're all here is because we're concerned about the future of our community. I think it's great that everybody's here, but to everybody else's point, nobody shows up to these things. As on the Metro District, we do a lot of things with the money of the Metro District that comes out of taxpayers' pockets that people either aren't interested in or they say they don't have time for. If we want a school, if we want those things, we have to fight for it. That's just the bottom line. The reason why I'm running for mayor is because I saw a problem and I can't complain if I'm not going to do anything about it. So with the schools, it is detrimental that we show up. They're on a board just like we're sitting on right now. They're people as well, and you guys have a chance to air your grievances and say what you think is necessary. So I think if we want anything done, we have to kind of band together as a community to get it done, no matter who's elected to the board or who's elected as mayor.
I will definitely just echo, basically what Michael started was representation and involvement. Representation on the board is critical. Having board members, school board members that live and are in the community of Milliken is critical to that direction that we can get. Losing the schools has happened. We're not, it is what it is, right? Like, that's the unfortunate side, but how do we prevent it in the future? How do we encourage more getting it back? Having representation and having involvement is a critical piece. As a town board member, you can't necessarily do that, but definitely working with, using the platform to work with maybe individuals that haven't necessarily, that have expressed interest but don't know how to go about being on the school board. That could be a platform that we could use, and that I would encourage.
For me, I have an extensive background in school safety and security and working with schools, colleges, K-12, private schools all around the country. We currently, in Parks and Recs, we currently have 4 schools that we supervise and 2 that we run childcare out of. And I understand how to negotiate, how to talk to and stand our ground with the school boards, the school representatives. That's a political job. And anybody who runs and serves on those understands it's a political job. As mayor, it's my responsibility to stand up to and represent the people of Milliken for the schools and any child care or any other program dealing with children. I'm not going to step down. I'm not going to let them bully us into accepting any of the options that they throw at us. Negotiation is a big part of it. Knowing how to negotiate, knowing what they're all about, and getting it all done is important.
Thank you very much. We'll go ahead now, we'll go ahead now and hear closing statements from each candidate, starting with Michael Orcutt. Each candidate has 2 minutes. And we'll start with Michael.
So first and foremost, I appreciate everybody coming out here. We've kind of beat the drum on non-participation, and everybody here is the start of that participation, going out after today, telling people what you heard, close friends and family members, for any one of the candidates up here. I don't think anybody up here is necessarily a bad choice. Some of us, I think, have differing views and opinions, but that's what makes a board great. You don't want a ton of yes men on board. You don't want everybody lockstep with each other, because that causes issues down the road. Being on the planning commission for 2.5 years, I feel like I have ample experience within the town's governmental affairs. I'm close with the staff of the town already. I understand their limitations, as well as our limitations as a board of trustees member or somebody on the planning commission. I echo that I ran for this position because I think that while being on the planning commission has given me a lot of great experience, I feel like my experience there can really help this new wave of trustees that are going to be taking over on the board. No incumbents, that's pretty unusual. And then we have 3 trustees from 2022 that were brand new as well. So I appreciate everybody coming out. Like I said, I love this community, and my name is Michael Orcutt, and I hope to have your vote April 2nd. Don't mail them on April 2nd. Drop them off on April 2nd. But thank you very much.
Amanda?
Thank you all for coming today. I love seeing everybody's faces out here. It's important that we come together and just participate together. I hope that if I'm elected, I can have the opportunity to be your voice. I love to listen. I have a barber shop in town, so anytime my car is there, please feel free to come in and complain to me. I do enjoy listening to everybody, your stories, what's going on, your visions, your views, and then being a voice for you in the meetings and moving forward with whatever we can move forward with, or putting a stop to whatever we need to put a stop to. And so I just look forward to serving my community. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Well, again, thank you everyone for coming out, and those who will listen to the replay on YouTube. Thank you very much to Millhouse for coming out today to tape this for us. I would appreciate your vote and support to continue the work that I've already started on the town board. In addition, I've heard a lot of great ideas here, and our board has had a lot of great ideas. But we have to recognize that it's our town staff that executes those great ideas. And we have a great town staff that has really been able to execute and bring to close some projects. So I hope to be able to continue working with that town staff, and I appreciate them very much. So if you have any questions, please feel free to contact me, and thank you very much.
All right, I too am gonna say thank you guys for coming out. We appreciate everybody being out here, and listen, I decided, like I said, to throw my hat in the ring because I looked at some issues around town that I don't know are being addressed. I think that I'd be a good candidate to do that. I think that I come in and really give a little bit of a different opinion into what maybe could be an echo chamber, like what Michael was saying. We want differing ideas. I'm definitely new to this, but I would definitely appreciate your guys' votes, or even the opportunity to talk to people and listen and see what we can do together to move things forward. The benefit of this to me is that looking at everybody who's running, I think that we're all poised to be in a good position moving forward. Everybody cares about the town, everybody cares about the people and the relationship that they have with the community, so it's definitely refreshing on my end. So again, my name's Conrad Stevens. I hope for your vote, and look forward to serving the community in other ways as well.
Do I start off by saying thank you, I
Yeah.
guess? So yes, thank you all for joining us. This has been fun. I will actually admit this is fun. I like the questions, the involvement from all of you with your questions was fantastic. There were some challenging questions, there were some softballs, but there were some good questions all around, and I appreciate that. And hopefully the four of us that are running for the Board of Trustees have expressed that we can benefit and we can support this town and move it forward in a direction that hopefully everyone would like to see. Now, there are four of us running, and there's only 3 spots. Hopefully I can gain one of those votes. With that, I am truly fresh ideas. Other than a little bit of involvement in the Go Mill Committee, I haven't had much involvement with the Town of Milliken Board. I don't have those preconceived ideas or notions that others might. It is true, fresh, true, open eyes coming in, and that is really what I feel like I can benefit to all of you on that. So that is kind of why I would like your vote, and I appreciate all of you being here and listening to us for 2 hours, and hopefully you have a good rest of your day, your Saturday. Thank you for joining us.
All right. First and foremost, I want to thank each and every one of you for caring enough to come out and put your questions out and listen to the wide variety of answers to your questions that all of us have on here. We've had a great time. Again, thank you so much for that. And I think that the position of mayor is ready to grow to the next level with Milliken, as Milliken begins to grow even further. I think the experience to hold that position needs to be very broad and very diverse for all the things that we're working on and things that are coming in the future.
I hope you'll support me and vote for me as your write-in candidate. I had that question earlier of why. It was an honorable reason why I'm a write-in candidate. And our responsibility as a board and as a hopefully mayor is to improve balance of budget, work with health, environment, safety, and security across the city and across the organizations that we represent. I have an open door policy my entire career, no matter what I ever did, it was open door. I encourage people to come and talk to me and tell me what your concerns are, and to the board. That's where we get the best ideas like today. I think Elizabeth had said she heard some great ideas coming up from each and every one of us today. And that's what it's all about. Again, I'm all about the community, always have been everywhere I've ever served or lived. And I will continue to be about the community and the values and the goals and the things that are important to our community. So I hope to get your vote as a write-in candidate on April 2nd. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Cindy.
All right. Thank you. Thank you guys for coming along on this little journey with me. Obviously, I said we started out in a nightmare for me, but as I hoped that once we start talking about issues rather than me talking about myself, I calm a bit and get more excited about where we're going. And just this election process has been interesting. We've had a lot of conversation about self-promotion versus trying to talk about issues, and that in our small town, we're not really political. You know, we don't, it's not what we're about. We really want to be more about the issues. And I think we can hold on to that. Certainly, again, I would appreciate when I look around the room, I see so many people that have served entire lifetimes to maintain and take care of what we have, and I just hope to carry that forward. I so much appreciate the gift that we have here, and certainly as you get out and talk to people outside of town, they haven't had the same experience that we have growing up and been taken care of by a community. And you know, I again hate to even mention it because I happened to attend the Nickel celebration last night, a 10-year celebration, and the message to the kids was how much their community loves them. And it was so fantastic, and I was so excited to hear those kids being told how much they are loved. And there's some fantastic things that are happening here, and I really want to carry that forward. And I find myself as a native being the odd man out here, the only voice at this point. And so, and to the newcomers, certainly we're not shut down to new ideas. We want new ideas, we want to incorporate them, but we want to do it in a way that takes care of our community and maintain it. So, thank you.
Thank you.
Good night.